Welcome to another JB Sales Joint brought to you by Sell Better. And today we're going to drive productivity for your sales team, remote or in-house, depending on what it is. Some people have a hybrid. We're going to talk about maximizing productivity. That's the focus of this conversation. We have someone very special in the room with us today. Mary Foster, VP of Demand Gen at Ambition, is here with us to have some fun. Welcome to the show.
Thank y'all so much for having me. Looking forward to hanging.
Absolutely. Mary comes to us from Nashville, Tennessee. That's in my backyard. I'm in East Tennessee. She's in West Tennessee. The Ambition sponsor for today's show. We are so happy to be sponsored by Ambition. If you guys don't know about Ambition, this is an opportunity for you to get to know them. This is one of those organizations that does incredible things for your sales culture in lots of different ways. So shout out to our sponsor for today's show, Ambition. Going to be a lot of great nuggets that we drop, and there's going to be some things that we talk about that are going to get some high notes. But first, you guys know I like to kick it off with a quick poll. Who's in the room? That's probably one of the more important things that we do here, because this way we can tailor the conversation to the folks that are here. That's really important because we don't want to talk about stuff that doesn't matter to you. So do this poll and let us know, what are you? Are you an SDR? Are you a leader? Are you a manager? Are you an alien? What are you?
All of the above.
Let us know in the chat if you're a stranger from another planet.
Yeah.
Or if
we
you
do
somewhere else and you just came for a good time, it's
It's a party.
I'm just here for the free booze.
I like it.
Awesome. Well, let me go through the rules real quick, because if I don't give you guys the rules, you're definitely going to break them. That's how we roll here. Yes, you're going to get the recording. Just stop. It's like a barrage every day of, can I get the recordings? It's you're going to get it if you registered. Let's keep it professional. I don't like negative stuff. Don't bring the negativity in here. If you bring it in here, I'm going to boot you out of here. Don't make me do it. Engage with us. Okay. We want to hear what you have to say. That's why we create this stuff. It's for you. It's not for us. It's for you. Questions go in the Q&A. Not sure why this is difficult. This is a challenge for everybody. Please put your questions in the Q&A. They get buried in the chat if you don't put them in the Q&A. All right, get in the zone. Work to the bone. It's the best you've ever known in class of your own. It's a competition of motivation and determination. So let's change the station. And let me tell you what you're going to get today on this episode. Today, you're going to learn how to transform your workspace. That's really important for being productive. You're going to get some tips from these elite team players that are going to give you some insights, and we're going to learn how to work that credibility. That's an important thing. It's one of the hardest things that we get as salespeople is credibility. Let's look at some of these poll results. Wow.
Nice.
What's up, SDR crew?
Shout out to the SDRs in the room. We know how it is. We love you.
We got a really good mix today. Hey, if you're other, let us know in the chat what your title is too.
Yeah, thanks for the shout out on the rhymes. I do it every time. I can't even stop sometimes. It's insane. All right, let's move forward here and let's talk about some fun stuff. I got more stuff coming for you guys, so keep with us. You know that I like to put some value in the chat for you as we move forward. But let's talk about how to transform your home workspace. You guys see my space. I see your space. Mary, why is this important? How do people do this? What does this do for productivity? How does it impact the metrics, the numbers?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you have to actually be able to have a setup that supports what you want to do. Especially for my SDR crew, that's who I spend most of my time with personally. But dialing your internet connection is huge. And so y'all, one of the biggest hacks for me was getting my Wi-Fi set up. That was everything from like router to learning how to log into the app and prioritize my Wi-Fi over top of anyone else in my house. They don't know that exists as a feature. Y'all might not either. So if you have people at home Xboxing, if you have significant others or partners working, you can log into your app and choose your priority device. It was a game changer for me, if I'm being honest.
I want to find out from the chat if that's, when she said that, I had no idea. Put a 1 in the chat if that's the first time you knew that you could do that, and you should. Look at this. Look at this. Changing lives every day, yo.
Do it.
Yes. Set the priority device. I do mine through Google Docs. You attach it to your router. It's like sort of a mesh coverage. And then you also get the app to set priority device. So yeah, y'all don't tell anyone else in your family that exists, but do it yourself. That's a big win.
That's a win all day. Leslie, I want you to talk about your environment because I know that since you started here, you've made major changes to the way that you work. So let's talk a little bit about your environment. And while you're doing that, everybody in the chat, I'm going to put something in the chat for you right now. Here it is, right? If you have ever had, if you could answer a few questions and receive a lifetime of invaluable revenue insights to unlock your organization's full potential, you would do it, right? Everybody should do it. You should say, yes, if you're going to do it, we should do it. Just a few questions that you could answer. So this is your chance to do it. You want to get actionable recommendations to unlock your team's potential? Here is your opportunity. There's a link in the chat. Go get it. Use it. Let me see if I can get it to actually link so that you guys could go fill it out. There it is. It's in the chat. Get those insights. Get those questions answered. Change the game today. Okay, that's your opportunity today. We're going to talk more about what you get with that. Leslie, your environment has changed dramatically.
Yeah. I have shifted it up a little bit. I think especially having a dedicated space. I know that's not possible for everyone, but I found what works best for me. If you can't have for me, it includes a door. I'm the person who I need to walk away or else I'm just going to stay in here all day. So for me, I had to have I had to work it out so that I had a door. And that wasn't true before, a couple of years ago. So having a door, if that's not possible in your living situation, being able to physically put away or close your laptop and put it in your backpack. I know that sounds weird, but being able to create that environment where you can step away from work. I found myself at the beginning sitting here through every single lunch and just staying at my desk and not stepping away and not being able to, get out of this work mind space and this work mentality. And it took a toll on me. So I've now created, this is my little safe haven. And I know that that's so awkward, but I'm picking things that people are going to comment on. Most common things are my Elton John and my plants. Things that draw people in from a prospects or from my peers' perspective. But then it's also nice, I'll go read a book over here for a little bit and I don't have to be sitting at my desk all day. And it's cute and it makes me feel good. And that has changed the way that I approach my day.
I think it's a cool opportunity too, Leslie, to showcase who you are. If you're going to be interfacing with clients all day, it's just a cool way to connect with people. Setting up your space in a way that invites questions and invites people to engage is really cool.
Yeah.
Part of it for me is the energy side of it, right? I have a very high energy and sometimes towards the afternoon, that energy starts to fade away. So I'm really looking forward to this desk that I have coming. It's a standing desk. And then I also got this great mat to put under my feet so that I can actually have something soft and push on my sore feet right here, right? This side, the ergonomic mat, super solid. I'll put links out, but this stuff right here is the type of stuff that will change your environment for the better. You'll feel like you're having, more productivity because you feel more comfortable at work. You need to feel comfortable when you do what we do. It's hard. It's supposed to be hard. All right, let's move on. We got some good stuff here.
I have one more hack there.
Go for it.
Yeah, I like timers. Because do you ever get sucked in? Especially, I saw a lot of SDR, BDRs in the room. Do you ever get sucked in to doing research or you're doing you're in the zone doing something and then you forget to move on to your next task? Is this just, I have this cute little block timer off Amazon and you don't have to, my phone, I'll get sucked into my phone. Maybe it's an ADHD thing. If I open my phone to set a timer, and I used to do this all the time, then I'm checking Instagram and I'm checking my text messages. And now I don't know what I was doing. Yeah, it's a black hole. It totally is. You just turn it on its side. So if I want 15 minutes, I point 15 minutes to the sky and it will beep at 15 minutes. And you can reset it by putting it back. Oh, I don't have an affiliate link, but I will send you the Amazon link. I should, I really need to call them up. I talk about this thing nonstop. And it's relatively inexpensive at a hot $7.99.
There you go.
It's you don't get sucked into the technology part. I think it's one of the best things for me personally, productivity hack wise.
I think to tag onto that, just the comment around the phone is so real. And so for me, sometimes, cause your girl loves Instagram. She likes to gram. She likes to TikTok. My phone in the other room is a game changer. And there's a lot to unpack there. Like if you actually start to think about the brain science of what causes people to leave like the task that they're at, it's usually like an avoidance mechanism if something's going to be hard or stressful or whatever. And so you start to learn those triggers that cause those ADHD behaviors, but just put your phone in another room and you would be amazed at how you're able to focus at the task at hand, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I use airplane mode often at my desk. I'll just put my phone on airplane mode and zero in. We got a great question, Mansoor. I think I'm saying your name right, Mansoor. It says, what do you think about 90-minute time blocks, 90-minute activity and 15-minute break and then reset? What do you guys think about that?
There's so many strategies around the time block. I've heard.
I think it depends on the activity, right?
Yes. Well, now I just read an article in Inc. today that was like 4 hours a day minimum blocked off on your calendar. Talk to no one. And I'm like, well, I don't know how that would work.
That's crazy.
Here's what I can say for sure, though. I love the 15-minute break reset, and whether that can take shape in a lot of different ways for me. Sometimes it is like a mental break where I like go walk and just like by myself. Sometimes it is taking a call on phone instead of Zoom. So I can do the same thing, walk, and it's just like a change where there's not a screen in front of my face and you're still able to work. It is very hard sometimes to like commit to those scheduled blocks though. And it can be a little bit just like a bummer if you're like, oh, I didn't get my 15-minute break like timed when I want. So it's a challenge depending on your calendar for sure. And salespeople who take calls and you're at the mercy of other people's schedules a lot, you can't always block from 1 to 1:15 to do your power hour. So I think you have to learn how to be flexible, but definitely work the breaks in.
Leslie, what do your time blocks look like?
So if we're talking prospecting it's interesting because I think like at least an hour for me because I get going into the groove, but I think it's different for every single person. So we all work a little bit different. We all get going, like the way that we focus and we hone in is different. So I think you got to test some things and figure out what works best for you. I found that I could just like open my front door and my neighbors probably think I'm insane. Scratch that. They do think I'm insane, but like I can just open my front door and just like stand there for a minute and I feel I'm in a different spot and there's sunshine or maybe not. And, it's like just it just resets me. I can't tell you how many times I just go open my front door and close it and come back into my office. It's so weird, but it helps.
I think so. There's a sense there of the reset, right? Just to go out, open your door for a moment, like even just like diverting your attention away, and that change in your environment will have an impact on your mind. You come back fresh to the next thing, and it takes that reset for us. We're human beings. I'm curious because we've talked a lot about changing your environment. When was the last time y'all gave your setting a facelift? And it's okay to admit, I've never done this. I work in a den under my mom's living room. It's okay. Nobody's judging you here. This is anonymous. It's okay. If you're wearing no bottoms right now in a dark room, working on prospecting, it's totally fine.
I feel like I move things like every 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna switch up my coffee cup today. My little pencil holder.
Yeah. I still have a space in front of my my computer screens here. Like there's still a big open wall space because I'm looking for the right inspirational thing to put up there. And like,
can I share a hack on that?
Let's go. What do you got?
Okay. I have a big giant frame in front of my computers and I'll send you a picture afterwards. And every year I pick a focus for the year. This year, my word is elevate. And I have a whole thing that I write for myself in my journal about all the things that I want to do. And elevate's my word this year. I find a picture and I create a poster and get it printed and I stick it in this frame. So every year it's a different poster, but it has my word so that I never forget it.
That's pretty good.
I love that. We have, mine's not a poster, but similar. We have a motto here at my koozie, Born to be Rich. It encompasses just the spirit at Ambition. it's about hustle. It's about winning. It's about like whatever your version of like great life is. And so similar thing. I like to have it there, just like basking in the motto. I like
Well, it
that.
looks like
So
most people
cute.
change their environment every few months. That makes a lot of sense to me. You're doing yours annually. 17% do it annually. 44% do it every few months. 29% of the people in the room admit they never do this, and then 10%, of course, that don't have a home office. I live at work, so it's not all it's cracked up to be. I assure you. Sometimes you got to disconnect. That's why we're having this conversation, because it helps your productivity. Let's talk a little bit more about inside versus outside. We talked about, how about fitness? Because this has changed my life in the last 6 months. And Mary, I know that I see your fitness posts. You and your whole family are like mad fitness people. I'm just like a noob into like the consistent fitness game, and everything about my productivity has gone up and to the right since I started on this journey a couple weeks before Christmas.
Favorite topic. Fitness is obviously important to your physical health and your well-being and your longevity. But for me, it is so important to my mental health, and like exposing myself to people who just pursue self-betterment or self-improvement in a number of different ways is huge for me. So I joke that my life coach is Alex Toussaint from Peloton, because not only am I sweating and doing my workout, he's telling me, you didn't come to work out, you came to outwork. You don't have to, you get to. It's an opportunity. I'm like a person who buys into that so hard. It's been a game changer for me. And I know that that's partially the physical endorphin side and like how our bodies actually work. And it's also partially just for me, like a mental commitment, a discipline. And like, I love being exposed to just self-improvement opportunities in general. It's huge.
So the thing that I noticed when I got into the fitness was that I felt like my clarity, my decision making was a little bit easier. I don't know if that's an energy thing or just like, you wake up and you get the blood going and your brain just works better because your blood is getting there faster. I don't know. Whatever it is, in the mornings, my productivity has gone way up. And that's I can only attribute it to the change in the two things I've changed: my diet and the amount of exercise that I've added to my lifestyle. That's the only two differences that I can attribute that to.
We did a poll on LinkedIn recently at Ambition of like, how do people need to reset? Like, and there were different options, and fitness one, like whether you take a small 15-minute break, like I think Mansoor was saying in the question of like a 15-minute break to do something. And we in June did like this mile challenge where it was like every day you walk a mile. And some people were hating so hard of like, it's a mile, it's so easy, whatever. But it was about like the commitment, the discipline, and like the finding time to take a break. And it like changed how everyone's like, let's keep this going. Let's keep this going. And you would talk to people during the day and they'd be like, all right, I'm going to go get my mile. And now it's just become like a philosophy for like how, whether you skip, walk, bike, whatever, get outside, like Leslie, stand in your doorway and bask. You got to get your mile and commit to, I think it's partially fitness and it's partially like mental fitness as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Leslie, in your experience, when you take the time to invest in yourself, your mental well-being, your physical well-being, whatever the time is, what is the time length that you need to reset, like fully reset, and then come back, whatever it is that you might be doing? It could be physical. It could just be standing in your doorway, right? What's the magic window of time for you? And then we're going to answer Colin's question.
I mean, I think it goes back and forth. It depends on how big my window was before that, or like especially in sales, right? We've all been there. We've all been there when we have just like a rough go on a phone call or a rough go in a demo or whatever it is, where it's like, that might take me a little bit longer. And I think just, Mary said it before with the flexibility piece, allowing yourself to take that. But also I found that if I take it for too long, I end up starting to spiral into like all of the things I could have done differently. I think I need to reflect in the moment. I usually take like 10 minutes. I write as much as I possibly can, and then I'll pop outside, usually outside. It's very hot in Raleigh right now. So that's why I stand in my door a lot of the times. It's like, I'm not going out there. But it's like if I have a route that I like pace around my house too, and I'll like call my mom or whatever it is. Like even if it's just 10 minutes, getting away from the desk. I think that not letting ourselves get sucked into a 45 an hour, unless it's productive in some other way, like I'm listening to a podcast or I'm doing like exercise, if I'm going to work out, whatever that is, if it's something that has an activity attached to it, it's different in terms of length of time. But if I'm just going to go sulk, I want to limit that. Give me a 10-minute window, I'm done, and then I'm back in.
10 minutes is a good time frame. I feel like that's a good reset, but I do think you're right. It does depend on what the push time was prior to that. If you just got off a 3-hour session or something, you might need 30 minutes to like reset your brain, have a quick bite, get some water, right? Like, hey, go to the bathroom, right? 3 hours is a long time, and then the other side of the fence is like, hey, I just got done with a 1 hour cold call, power hour. Let me take 10 minutes and just reset, and then I'll come back to my emails or whatever. Colin has a good question here. What would you recommend doing when you have to use your cell phone to make the calls? If you don't have the call system, because I think what he's saying is like, you have to sit in front of your desk. You have to put the headset on. You got to go through the system. It's hard. We talked a lot about getting away from your desk. So what do you say to the people that are chained to the desk, literally?
And I think he was talking about that when we were talking about getting distracted by other things on our phones. Like the amount of notifications I have right now gives me anxiety. Like I have to limit the notifications. I saw a few people post in the comments about the do not disturb, but it has new names now. I always forget it. Right?
Focus mode. I think
focus mode, and like setting that up, it takes a long time. For me, it's the bubbles on like how many emails,
red bubbles,
unread emails. Oh, the red bubbles, they get me and they just suck me in. And so like right now I have to physically turn my phone over. I'm going to go click on all those red bubbles. So if you can limit those notifications, limit what pops up as a banner, limit what the bubbles are. I put everything on a secondary screen so it doesn't show up on my home screen. Like the only thing I'm seeing on my home screen is calls and text messages. And I do get sucked in, but I want it there just in case there's an emergency or like it's something like that. And I don't get it right 100% of the time, but having everything on a different screen is a much less of a distraction for me personally.
I do that too, except the bubbles are out of control.
But gosh, no.
The bubbles, I can't.
139?
I can't with people Mary. Like you. No, that's a no-go for me. I will lose my mind. All right.
I'm so focused.
Let's take a minute because we have to involve the group. The group gets to judge here. All right. Are you ready to work from home? Crush quota. This is how to be an elite hybrid seller ebook. This is coming to you from our friends at Ambition. Learn how to manage your time, stay connected, build better relationships in the work from anywhere world. This is the link you want to go to right here. I'm going to put it in the chat. You guys got to go and you got to get this handbook. You need this handbook. You want to read it, go through it, implement the changes that matter to you. This is important. Now that we've passed the point of no return, put in the chat the number that is highest in the red bubbles on your phone. No lying. Yeah. No lying. Put in the chat. What's the, oh my God, 411. No, dude. 10,000. James.
Whoa, wait.
Oh, 105.
Brianna. No, 105,000.
I can't, you guys.
I'd have to turn it off. Yep.
This is killing your productivity. This is murdering your productivity. I'm telling you now. Who are these maniacs? Thank you, Brian.
Or it just doesn't bother you, right? I think everyone has like that different thing. This, to me, it's like, I just saw 78 and I'm twitching a little bit,
If I see like 10, if I see double digits, I'm like, I'm going into like DTs. I have to know,
Yeah. Text message different, Brianna says, but you're right. Like if it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Leave it alone.
Oof, I don't know. I would have to at least turn the bubble off. Just knowing that it's there would probably irk me. But okay, let's move on. I don't want to harp on this. Let's give some tips because these are tips for being an elite remote team player. Now, 1 in the chat if you're remote, 2 in the chat if you're working in an office, 3 in the chat if it's a mix of the two? I want to see kind of gauge. Oh, I see lots of threes. Look at this. More threes than what I would have thought. A little bit of remote, a little bit straight remote. I see a lot of straight remote. All right, let's talk about getting the remote game down, because this has been a challenge for a lot of companies recently, and we've talked about it a lot. Camaraderie is lost. John talks all the time. When you're an SDR and you are in a room with all of your people, you can lose together, you can laugh together, you can share information, you can high five each other and celebrate wins. You can go to lunches together and have that disconnect at the same time and build that camaraderie. But that's kind of lost in the remote world. So where do we pick up from that? What's some suggestions that you two have for keeping that going?
One thing we have tried, and you see it here, is Nooks. I don't know if anyone in the chat has experience or uses it regularly, but that is like a way to sort of recreate a sales floor during a blitz, because I miss the days of blitzing in the pantry with all the SDRs, the old kitchen we had, or just trying to exactly recreate and overhear each other, because you learn so much overhearing each other. So that is one thing, but also do schedule time for blitzes where you're all on the call at the same time, because even if it is remote in Slack, like sharing like who picked up, who didn't, just real time chatting to each other during the blitz is helpful too. But I'm curious if anyone uses Nooks or their teams have tried it.
We actually have a webinar coming up with Landon Meyer of Nooks. That's coming up. It's 12 essential skills that you need to crush your outreach. And that's July 13th at 2 p.m. Hit me up. I'll send you the link so you guys can sign up for that. I'm curious how you guys celebrate wins. How do you celebrate wins? How often does it happen at your organization? It's okay. Again, totally anonymous. Nobody's judging you.
Wins. I love it.
I wish I could answer the poll.
Every guest on the webinars is like irritated that they can't vote on the polls. Shout out to Zoom if you're listening. Change the game and let our guests do it. Let's talk a little bit about call camp and roasting, because I think this can be good if it's done in the right way.
Yeah, this is something we do. We have a phenomenal director of sales development. He's an incredible people leader, and this is a program he started called Call Camp. So shout out Chris O'Connor. Every week on Call Camp, there's sort of a theme. And so a lot of it is celebrating the good calls. Like, let's hear what other people are doing to overcome objections, et cetera. But also, what are the dumbest things you've done on a call, or like who wants to nominate themselves for the worst call of all time? Because again, you're trying to replace what you overhear each other. Because, previously on the sales floor, you'd be like, oh man, that sounded so bad. Like, is everything okay? What is the version of that in the virtual world? And so we have weekly call camp. There will be a theme, submitting best and worst calls, or like any theme you want, like where this specific objection happened, everyone submit a call where that happened, and we listen and we celebrate and we learn. And it happens every single week. And it has been huge to where the AE team is sort of adopting their own version of call camp now too, for us.
I want to double click into that, because I saw a ton of leaders that are also on the call as well. And this is something that comes up a lot with our clients. When we are losing that sales floor mentality where we're able to listen and have those conversations, it's just as important for our AEs, our SDRs, our BDRs to hear the bad as it is to hear the good, because it does a couple of things. First off, when we're only hearing all the great things that are going on with all of our peers, but we're only feeling all of our negatives, it helps to normalize that. Like, oh, everyone has those terrible calls, because we all do. Every single one of us, I still have terrible calls, right? And we're going through it together, and it feels just like we're normalizing the challenges. But then also, I take away just as much from hearing bad calls as I do good. Like, what could I have done differently? And we used to hear that sitting on the floor, to James' point, right? That we used to have that. We used to also hear, okay, I'm not going to try that. I heard them try that, and that was tough. Let me see what I would do different. And it's that learning cycle. So being able to put both the bad and the good in there. I do think King brings up like being the only person on your team and being a solo salesperson.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing. I think going through, yeah. Okay. Rob brings up gong snippets. Yeah. Like bringing back in and going back through your calls if possible. I also do, I have like a little whiteboard here and I keep notes because I always think like, oh, I need to go back and listen to that call, or I need to go back and then I forget when it is or what happened. So I'll like either write down it's 1:31 Eastern time right now. I'll put 1:31. And so I know what time it was and I can go to that part of the call and remember that one piece, or just like take some notes down or something to remind myself to do something different. Being the only person, you have to go and be a little bit more critical of your own calls and decide what you do different. And sometimes having notes there in the moment is helpful to go back.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think, King, finding a community, there's lots of online communities, whether it be LinkedIn or whatever, will be important for you as you grow. But I suspect you won't be the only SDR for long. I bet you'll be growing that team.
In most instances, when you're the only SDR, King, this is how people become business development directors, business development managers. Yeah, for those, so for those of you that are here, we got a couple of people chiming in here. Let's take a moment. For those of you that are the only SDR, this is how you become the lead. You build what's successful. Please throw your questions about this in the Q&A because we want to be able to tackle them. You can build the things that work and then pass them on to the folks that come on behind you. That is the definition of a leader, right? Giving them the resources and the tools that they need to succeed. So don't look at this as I'm on the bottom of the totem pole, because that is a false perception. You're actually kind of in the middle and you have the opportunity to go up or down depending on the way you perform. So go ahead and take the opportunity to try new things, A/B test, find those magic bullets that work good for your ICP and your personas, and then document them, because you're going to build something to help others come and be a part of your team. And then you're going to be able to get tools in place that help your team win. And the more you build, the more tools you need. And the more tools you use, the more you can build. And those two things go back and forth consistently, but you'll never rise to the top feeling like you're at the bottom. That's not true. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you've got here that you guys have recreated in Slack, because some of these are really creative.
Yes.
So we talk about the visible wins, but then you do some other things too, right?
Yes, we are power users of Slack. And part of it is visibility and creating like positive accountability and encouragement. Because we do, back to celebrating wins, we celebrate a lot of things. And it's not just the meetings and it's not just the deals. It's like, Will got 100 calls and it's like noon. Part of the downside of that, if you're not celebrating that kind of stuff, is like, I've made 100 calls and no connects, or like haven't gotten a chance to, get a meeting or whatever. But we are like celebrating the grind too, which I think is big. And we'll talk about that a little bit more with one of these questions in the chat, but like we measure everything. So celebrating dial thresholds, if you do get a meeting, when something converts to pipeline, everything. And part of it is not just seeing those triggers come in. Part of it is the culture of everyone recognizing it. The emoji game is strong. The comments, the jokes are everywhere. We have a big, big hype house culture, which I think is important. We also have a lot of community-based channels that have nothing to do with work, because I actually believe that if you develop connections and community outside of just your job, it's actually going to make you better at your job, because you're going to learn a lot of different things that you wouldn't have necessarily been exposed to. So we do have a Power Babes channel for anyone who identifies as female. We talk about a ton of stuff, from being like underrepresented in the room to like, did y'all see the latest Sephora sale? Like, it covers the gamut of things. And then we also just roast the local coffee shop in Nashville, who they're out of coffee a lot. They're out of milk. That's a big bonding thing for people who happen to be in the office.
You got a coffee shop out there that runs out of coffee? That's a thing?
next door. We also have a garage door that opens at the office that I work part-time from. I'm the number 3 in the chat who does both.
Nice.
And people wander in here and think it's the coffee shop. So it could be my side hustle in the future.
Hey.
I'm not going to say who it is, but it's not Barista Parlor Matt. I forgot there was Nashvillians. I don't want to.
They're touching some nerves out there. Coffee shops without coffee. That's like a bar without beer. Get out of here with that.
I love that you have that additional piece, that additional layer where you're getting to know people on a different level. I think it's important for us to be able to choose and show up as who we are. And it's so important to how we perform to be able to be who we are with our colleagues and with our peers. And it's not always the case that every work environment supports that, especially working from home. James and I were a much smaller team. I started throwing this on my calendar because I found it really easy to get sucked into my own day-to-day, my own life routine. And I'm like, have I talked to someone that I work with in a while, right? We're all going in a million directions. And so I have time on my calendar so that I know I can separate myself out beyond, we're great on Slack at keeping up with each other, but beyond that, like the one-on-one connection, I do something called Throwback Thursday because I have to have alliteration for everything in my life. So every Thursday, I have a plan to reach out to someone. And whether that's someone who's a current peer or typically the throwback came from someone in a previous role, like some connection that I had previous in my life. And being able to just have a conversation with someone, anyone, keeps me like engaged and going. And it's like honoring who I am as a person and who they are as a person. And then for managers, I used to plan monthly. Let me write a letter to one person every month or every week on my team, rotating, that calls out like really specific things that I admire in them. So not only is that having me go and look for these wonderful, positive things, and I'm able to utilize that for elevating the team that I'm working with, but it also is showing the team how much I respect and admire them as individuals as well.
Let's give everybody a chance here. Put the leader that you should probably reach back out to in the chat, sales leader or otherwise, somebody that influenced you. Put their name in the chat if you feel like they deserve a shout out from you. That's a good thing. You should go ahead and take advantage of that opportunity to call them and thank them.
Yeah, that's smart networking. That's like, it's positive in general and like a good thing to do, but that is smart networking in the time of like a crazy market.
Yeah, I feel like there's something innately kind about that motion that would yield great conversations. What is the Buffalo Sprint?
Oh, so we are a distributed team here. So we have little pockets of people, but we have started growing a team in like Buffalo, and Buffalo, not known to be the tech headquarters that I'm aware of, but the Buffalo SDR org rolls strong. So shout out to any of them on here. Not only do they put up some of the biggest numbers, they go so hard at having fun. They went on a boat last week, didn't tell or invite anybody. They go to lunch together all the time. So even though we are like a distributed workforce, I think it is smart for little pockets of people who can get together in person and who feel safe and comfortable doing so to do so. So we facilitate that a little bit in Slack. Like we have regional group channels like here in Nashville. Maybe y'all in the Nashville chat want to come. We're going to go to Autos next Friday for anybody who knows what Autos is. But we try to create opportunities to get together where you can and where it's not expensive. And so Buffalo has just created something super special where they get together all the time. They're best friends. Every Monday when they talk about their weekend update, they were all together hanging out. So they're together like Sunday through Saturday. And honestly, it shows in their performance too. They put up some of the biggest numbers around.
I love it.
We have get-togethers. We have get-togethers at JB, but many times there's only a portion of them that are able to be released into the wild.
Right. And it's like you never know what city we're going to pop up in.
That's true. More social than
Keeping you on your
SaaS. It's been a
toes.
lot of fun. We got to do a Nashville one. We got to do a Nashville one.
I would love to. Sign
That'd
me
be
up.
awesome. That'd be awesome. All right. I got something for you. Then we're going to answer some questions. So let's get your Q&As in. And then I've got more stuff for you guys as well. So once again, we invite you to take this assessment provided by our good friends at Ambition. This takes 4 minutes to do. And what this will do is help you to focus and maximize your team's results. That's the purpose of this assessment. While you're at it, go ahead and set up a demo while you're there. That is an availability. There are several things on this website you want to take advantage of. Change the game, get the assessment, the handbook, and a demo. That is important. So that's the last thing for you in the chat, but make sure that you take advantage of those things. I'll put it in one more time at the end so that the folks that are still in the room can take advantage of it. One of the things that we want to always do is talk about activities that salespeople do that cause lack of production. And I think personally that people sell the roadmap way too often. If you sell a product, you know that oftentimes people will reach out and you'll be in conversation. But you know what we really need is something that does this. And you don't do that, but you're like, oh, it's on our roadmap. And then you end up in this big back and forth about the roadmap, and people will go and buy the roadmap, and you don't have anything to do with product. It gets delayed. The release goes bad. There's too much involved. They abandon the project. You sold the roadmap and not what you have. So I'm curious for those of you in here, are you guilty? Are you like me? Did you do this in the past? Yeah, look. Woo! I'll tell you, this is a hot one right here. All right, so here's a good question from Judah. How do you structure your days? For example, how many hours a day do you work, and how do you split that up? Also, holistically, what does the morning and the evening routine look like in terms of personal resets, rest, planning, family, friends? Judah, thank you for a very well thought out question.
Yeah, beautiful.
I love that question. And I have one quick thought on it, which is I like focusing less on like the structure of the day sometimes and more on the scorecard. Like, what are the metrics you're scored against, and do you do those before noon and then go to the pool? Or do you spend time like prospecting in the morning and hitting dials in the afternoon? I think having clear accountability metrics is key actually to deciding how you want to structure your day. Because it used to be you need to work when your peers are working because y'all need to communicate. Now the time zones, like we have people all over the place, and that's not really a thing. So to me, it's really about like, what's your scorecard? What are the activity and objective metrics you need to hit? And how do you best suit yourself to do that? That's how I think about it. But I think that's pretty different than probably a lot of people.
I like that a lot. One thing to add to that is making sure that you communicate your expectations on this with your leadership team or your team in general, no matter what role you're in. If your office is all local in one spot, it might be a little bit different, like expectations of what your working hours are. So having this conversation as often as possible with your leadership team, with your peers, and then just managing their expectations of you. So you can say, hey, I'm going to step away. For me, I never was able to do this before, but I am loving and taking advantage of being able to, on the days that I don't have a meeting, go and pick up my daughter early and get her from school. Although she kind of wants to stay in after school care, which hurts my feelings, but that's fine. Okay, fine. I'll leave you. But being able to like spend a little bit more time and being able to do that. And then I get back online later. So I've just managed that expectation with the team that I'm going to be unavailable between the hours of 4 to 7. And then I'm going to pop back online for a couple hours. As long as people know, it's fine. It's whenever your leadership team or your peers are looking for you and slacking you and calling you and texting you and you're not responding in business hours that I think causes some friction.
Yeah, accountability sometimes is a negative word, but there's actually a positive accountability to like understanding what your metrics are, understanding what your responsibilities are. And then for the leaders on the call, something I do is I have a publicly visible calendar so people know when I am going to go ride my Peloton or when I am going to pick my kids up. It's very public because we do want to encourage people to live that like work-life balance, but it's about the expectation, like Leslie said, like, I'm not going to Zoom with you during this time because I'm going to be on my Peloton or whatever it is. Just making sure the communication.
Well, I don't have a Peloton, but I do have a calendar, and I can show you exactly how I manage my day to day, because this is how it looks. Don't have a seizure when you see it, but this is how it looks. You can see anything in yellow is live, and you can go back week after week and you'll see a similar pattern. I'm live a lot, right? You see all my flights, you see all the breaks. So one of the things I want to point out here is look at these 15-minute buffers before and after meetings. Those are extremely important for me, not because I get up and I walk away and I don't do nothing for a minute and I reset my brain, but because after a call, I got some notes that I took that I need to make sure I have actionable stuff for. And then before a call, I usually need a few minutes. Who am I talking to? Why am I talking to them? What's the function of this call? How do I imagine it to go? So those buffers are really important for me. And yes, it's true that it means you will speak to less people, but the quality of those conversations are far greater because you've managed your time that much more effectively. So that's how I do it.
And I think you're more prepared too if you're planning. The buffer time helps with a planning process as well.
Yeah, really does. So I want to show that real-time example right there. Again, great question from Judah. We really appreciate that question. Let's talk a little bit about the credibility factor right here, because that's, like, I've talked a lot about getting credibility as a seller. It's one of the hardest things that we do. So call coaching and reviews. Somebody mentioned Gong earlier. Do you guys have thoughts around call coaching and reviews? How do we get this done?
We do this a lot. Call coaching is a big part. Coaching in general to us is more holistic than call coaching, but call coaching certainly is a part of that. And so not only in group sessions like call camp that we talked about, but when we have weekly one-on-one check-ins, there's opportunities to submit specific calls that leadership asks for. So we definitely believe in it as part of a coaching strategy. I don't think that is what coaching is personally. I think it's much more than that, but it is part of it for sure.
Yeah, and Matt wanted to know what was the calendar hack. The buffers is a good calendar hack. You want to use those buffers for sure. So that's a good one. But time blocking in general is a calendar hack. If you get really good at time blocking, you will see more productivity, 100%. Okay, so we talked about nobody wants to see your unmade bed. Who was it? Was that you that threw that out there?
Which is great because someone asked a question about, listen, this is real. Yeah. There is a great, who asked the question? I want to say, listen, Sarah, me and you, we had, joke, like we have virtual backgrounds and we have some people blur backgrounds. Like you see the branded ones, you see the blurred ones. And it's really a personal choice because like Leslie mentioned earlier, her setup is so cool and it's part of who she is and how, like, I think that showcases like a personality, but not everyone has a home office per the question earlier. And also some people just don't want other people to see their home. So we spent a little bit of time coaching around like professionalism in a home environment. And part of that is like, no one wants to see your unmade bed for real. So whether that be a virtual background, branded or not, a blurred background, or just kind of relocating where possible, which is not possible for everybody. But technology definitely allows you to make that choice and to like exude a professional appearance no matter where you are.
I say like worst case scenario, try to change your chair so that you're against even a blank wall. I mean, I would take that over the unmade bed. And I've seen like, I mean, has everyone had some of those Zoom calls where you're on with someone and something terrible happens like in the background and you're trying to tell them, like, I feel like everyone's had that experience at this point, right? Just like people walking through or like, there's always something. So if you have no other option, the backgrounds have gotten better, but they project into my eyes. I have a green screen, like a full on green screen. I can't use them. They go into my eyeballs. It's crazy. So like the ones that are built into Zoom, like you get space or like the blades of grass in my eyes. So like if you can't use them, just go up against a blank wall.
Yeah. Yeah. Blank walls are more effective than people think. I'd rather have nothing there than have something there that's like not supposed to be there or inappropriate, right? We've all seen those Twitter posts where they have like worst selfies of all time. We're all like, oh, I got to see it, right? Like you don't want to be that person on your sales calls. So Jason says, thinking about call camp, we talked about call camp earlier. They have Gong, but they can't listen to other people's calls unless they're shared. Is that a common practice? This is probably a good conversation about just sharing of information and how coaching goes, but what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's some laws around that depending on where you live too. One important distinction, we do call camp, but people do submit their calls because the last thing you want is a group of people choosing for you and overhearing, and like that takes away some of the trust and makes the recording feel icky, I think. And it's meant to be a positive. So I actually don't mind that like other people aren't listening or can't listen unless it's shared or submitted. And I think you just have to build trust and that culture of trust of being like, hey, everyone share their worst calls and like make it a positive learning experience. I'm big on like choosing to share or not. I think that creates a positive culture.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for like your admin having access and providing that to a leader who's going to come into a one-on-one and say, hey, I listened to this call, right? But your admin should have access, whoever the Gong admin is, right? They should have access to everything that's in there if you own the account, right? But the flip side of that coin is that should be done on the one-on-one. I don't think it should be done in the group setting, especially if that person is unaware that it's going to be shared in a group setting. So, using those really, kind of, you want to go for the right culture there and you want to make sure you're using them effectively in the right settings.
I've never thought about it that way. I really like your take, Mary. Like, I like that. But I also think back to being new in an organization and being able to go surf around and listen to people's calls and see how they're pitching and what they're saying. And it becomes awkward for the asker to be like, hey, can you send me a call? Hey, can you send me a call? Hey, you never sent me a call. Just want to remind you, can you send me a call? And that gets a little bit strange. So I like the open piece of it. Unless there's some way, like what I would encourage if you want to keep, or I know it's probably not your decision, but like if your company wants to keep that, being able to create a library of here's some calls that you can go listen to and here's access to all of them. But I understand, like, I like the choice that Mary's talking about, and it does foster trust, but it also, like, for those new people, I know how challenging and how hard that can be. So having a library of here's ones that are pre-approved or a Slack channel might be
probably great for learning too. Somebody had brought up onboarding. That's Mary. Thank you for bringing up onboarding, right? Onboarding does probably need to hear some calls, but I think, would this not be on the leader to be able to create a repository of good calls and bad calls, to be able to have that juxtaposition, as you said, Leslie, pre-approved, if you will, right?
Pre-approved.
Yeah, we do have that too, because it's a great point. Like some people, but also we don't want them surfing around, because I don't want people picking up bad. Not every call maybe should be one you try to model.
Yeah, and what works for one seller doesn't work for the other, right? Like some people just have a personality type that the way they say something works. Other people have a different personality type and it comes out completely wrong, right? It's the difference in being that creepy sound versus that, oh, you're super sociable sound, right? It can go one way or another.
Or like inquisitive versus like, where were you last night? It's like
Yeah. I would agree with that. So Tony has a good question here. He says, we do call blocks on mute all the time.
Yeah.
What efficiency and productivity adds does Nooks give while integrated with SalesLoft? That's a really specific question, Tony. I don't know Nooks well enough. Do you guys know Nooks well enough to answer that question?
We're only dabbling. So I would say, Tony, you should come to the Nooks webinar that James is doing next week.
Yeah, that would be good. I would definitely do that. Tony, reach out to me and I will set you up so that you and the crew can come to that. So we'll take care of that for you. Drew has a good question here, and then we'll get to how people can connect with you. How our SDR team technically sits at the marketing level, but we work closely with both marketing and sales. With the marketing team, we consistently have group meetings, but when it comes to the sales org, we usually have one-on-one time set up when necessary. What are some tips on building rapport with the sales team as an SDR when you sit in the different group? Or to be more generalized, tips on just building rapport with a team so that you don't technically sit on? That's a good question.
It's a great question. We're in a similar situation. We actually have our own org. So demand gen is separate between marketing and sales here at Ambition. So a similar challenge where you have to sort of integrate into a few different departments. So quick tips on ways to do that remotely is via Slack, like via some of these other interest channels, I think, because it is more general, like critter content is a great one we have here where a lot of people got pets, whether you're on product and engineering or sales, CS, it's a great place to meet people. We have a hot gossip Bravo channel. Just some of those interests outside of your actual role is important. And you should feel empowered to start that hopefully at your org or talk to whoever admins your Slack and see if you can start to take some of that on. Also, though, building rapport with your sales team. I think one-on-ones is a great way to do it. Skip level meetings if you're a leadership role, like meeting with AEs directly, being like, how are the accounts? Like they're your customer in a sense, right? Like, hey, are you liking what we're sending you? What would you do differently? What accounts were you loving? Make it be in service of their role. That's a great way to build rapport because
that was going to be my suggestion, was to go talk to the people that you're actually serving and say, how can I be better? How can I improve? Right. Being humble enough to ask for that improvement is super important. Mary, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
On LinkedIn or Twitter, Mary Liz Foster. You can follow my Fitstagram on Insta.
Fitstagram. That's not bad. I like that. My Fitstagram.
Anywhere. Y'all can find me on LinkedIn is probably the best place.
Leslie, how do you like people to reach out to you and connect?
LinkedIn, I'm Leslie B. Douglas. And then Instagram, it's Leslie Douglas. I'll link you.
Wonderful. Look at that. Links in the chat, y'all. Go connect with these two ladies. They are experts in the field. I want to tell you guys, thank you for coming out and investing in yourself. It's always important that you realize that you are the front line, the tip of the spear, the thing that matters most to your organization. And if anyone ever tells you differently, please have them come speak to me. I will also tell you that you can sign up and subscribe to our newest, latest, greatest creation. The YouTube channel is now live. Sell Better on YouTube. Go subscribe to that. That's where you're going to find highlights from webinars just like this and previous webinars. And then finally, we are able to be found on TikTok and Instagram at sellbetter.xyz. We want to meet you there. That's where we put the bam in your gram every day. We drop sales fire there consistently so you can learn, develop, get the skills and practices that you need. And you can always follow us on LinkedIn as well. So make sure that you're following us, connect with us, talk to us. We've never met strangers in our lives, just people that are friends that we haven't met yet. Ladies, thank you for coming in and sharing your knowledge with our audience. Let me know in the chat if this has been useful for you. We appreciate you guys coming out. Anything last advice that you want to offer anyone? We've got about a minute left. What's the last nugget you want to drop?
I would say keep making space to learn stuff and keep going to things like this because it will be impactful for your career in the long haul.
Nice. Leslie, what's your gem?
Mine is make it yours. Everyone throws out tips and tricks and tactics and strategies all the time. We're all different. Find out what works best for you.
Pragmatism is the religion of sales. Never forget that. I'll see you guys next week when we bring you more stellar guests to help you sell better. Thanks to Ambition for having us today. We appreciate you guys.
See y'all next time.